And we're back. I've just decided to select colorless, so you know what? I'm a liar. We're gonna go with multicolored. Oh, look, it's a small list. We'll go into the artifacts after this, and then we'll hit up lands, and that will be the end of it. So this will be the last video. But we are looking at Magic Origins, which is the Magic 2015 core set. This is the last core set, and it is shown some interesting things. I'll leave it at that. Let's go ahead and start off. We have Blaze Hellhound, black red. So sacrifice another creature. It deals 1 damage to target creature or player. This is only good if your creature is going to die or you are going to win the game. 4/3 for 4. That makes it a good card as far as the set goes, as most of the things have been 2 strength, so it will at least kill 2 different things, because most things have also been 2 toughness. This has been the bear set. Just the bears. The bears. Blood Cursed Knight. As long as you control an enchantment, it gets +1/+1 in lifelink. That's awesome. Although, I don't know that I want to play many of the enchantments I've seen. So, that isn't so awesome. Bounding Crassus. Flash. Enters the battlefield, tap or untap target creature. Efficient as far as cost goes, not something I'm all too interested in playing. Here we go. Citadel Castellan. Wow, Castellan. What am I? The Castellan. Vigilance Renown 2. That's, again, a 4/5 is good. And it's Vigilance. I like this card. It's kind of bland. Double Strike from red-white. That's really bland. I feel like you're not getting much. Like, this guy shot things. I guess. A Scob. So this thing exiles itself instead of going to the graveyard, and it revives an instant or sorcery. For 5 mana, that's a bit overcosted. Or creature. Instant sorcery or creature. So it's so that you can't endless loop them. I was wondering why that was in there. I should probably start reading these out loud again. That way I actually hear myself and know that I'm being an idiot. Reclusive Artificer. Haste. When it enters the battlefield, you have to deal damage equal to target creature equal to the number of artifacts you control. It's unfortunate that it's only creatures. It's at least in the right color combination in order to actually take advantage of artifacts. But at the same time, it's kind of like, not really. Shaman of the Pack. Whenever Shaman of the Pack enters the battlefield, a target opponent loses life equal to the number of elves. I'm so sick of this elf theme. Like, I feel like this is giving me the finger everywhere. Like, every time you, like, number of elves you control. Why couldn't this just be the number of creatures you control? That would have actually been helpful. But this does actually win the game in elves. It is an elf that can actually, in the game, in elves, right there, no attack. That's actually something to think about, though. Because elves is already, and I'm talking about legacy elves, it is a deck. This gives you the ability when you're going off, and you got like 7 or 10 elves out there, and you've done like 7 or enough damage so that you have more elves out there than damage. And all of a sudden you're just like, you know what? I need to end the game now, and I can't attack. I know my opponent's got like a fog, we're going to say, or a floating terminus. And so you're like, Green Sun Zenith for 3, or for 4, or 5, 6, 7. And they're like, yeah, go get your thingy so that I can terminate your whole board and win the game. And you're like, Shaman of the Pack. And they're like, wait, what? And then they read it, and they're like, oh yeah, trigger on a stack, terminus your team. And you're like, damn, that's going to happen. That's what that card's going to do. But it is still a win condition. It's something that can happen. I'm amping myself up in my own head about this card, but it is one of those things that I'm just looking at it. It's like, this has so much potential. But at the same time, It has none at all. Thunderclass Wyvern. Wyvern, Wyvern, pick your own poison. Flash, flying. Other creatures you control with flying. It's a flying lord. That's all it is. I feel like that's a little lackluster. And Zendikar Incarnate. Are there only 10? 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. There are. One for each color combination. And they are all in common. Power and toughness equal to the number of lands you control. Well, at least we know what Nissa's getting. I hate that card now. Yeah. So that is it for those. Up here we have flip over. You know what? We're going to go through lands because it's going to be a little easier. We have pain lands that are coming in. So we're going to ignore pain lands. Everybody should know they're good. They're reprinted. Evolving Wilds will be good and limited. We are going to skip basic lands and only look at the lands that are non-basics and new. Unless they reprint something that's actually valuable. Add one, sacrifice. This isn't helpful. If this didn't sacrifice, it would be okay, but it doesn't, or it does sacrifice, so it's not as good. We have our multicolor producer, and it involves storage counters. Not going to be nice. The storage counters are nice if you can have the additional mana to actually add them on, but that means that you're cutting yourself back. In the early game, that's not going to help, and in the late game, you should already have the mana, so that takes away from this. Rogue's Passage. 4 mana, target creature can't be blocked this turn. So you basically give something unblockable. That's kind of helpful. 4 mana is a little bit expensive, though, so yeah. And then lastly, we have artifacts, which I figured there weren't going to be very many lands or other things, so let's go ahead and jump through here. Enters the battlefield, draw a card. Okay, so we have another bauble. Oh, this one's a vial. Sacrifice a target creature can't attack or block this turn. That's not the worst. If it didn't have this associated cost, I would say that it would be towards going forward with God, what is that? Time Sieve combo. I think it was Time Sieve. Time Sieve, maybe. That is not gonna work, is it? Yeah, Time Sieve. There we go. You can pause the video and go back for that one. But if it didn't have the associated mana cost, it could have gone there. 5 mana. If you would gain life, gain twice as much instead. If you would draw a card, except for the first one you draw a turn, draw step. The first card you would draw in each of your draw steps, draw 2 additional instead. Okay. So they essentially reprinted or created reverse chains of Mistopheles. For those of you who don't know, Chains of Mistopheles was one of those headache cards for people because what it did was it. Let me explain it before I'm gonna pull it up for you in a moment. Chains of Mistopheles read that if outside of your normal draw for the turn, your 1 per turn forced draw, any draw that was made was met with A, discard a card, draw a card, or B, mill a card if you couldn't discard a card. Do not draw a card. So you had these fun interactions where people would have 2 chains out and the question would come up, okay, well, what happens now when I brainstorm? And the answer is simple. You either discarded a card, discarded a card, drew a card, discarded a card, milled a card, didn't draw a card, or you milled a card, didn't do anything. You have to go through both of them. Now in this there's no alternate thing, so if you would draw 1, draw 2 instead, well, that's fine. It makes it just mathematical. So if you would draw 1 card, you're going to draw 2. Well, if you have 2 of these out there, each one of those draw 1s, because each draw is considered draw 1. This is not draw 2, it's draw 1 card, draw 1 card. So this becomes, instead of just draw a card, it becomes draw a card, And then each one of those filters through, so you have draw a card, and draw a card, which is 4. 2 turned into 4. You just double it. Mathematical. This is essentially the same thing, though. So, I don't know why they just... For each card you would draw an additional card. Would have been the easy answer. Wording. Angel's Tomb. Whenever you play a creature, this becomes a 3/3 white angel until end of turn. Not really something I'm interested. Bonded Construct. Cannot attack alone. You pussy. Brawler's Plate. And we have an equipment. +2/+2 and trample. With a super high equip cost. Do not play this card. Other artifact creatures you control. It is an artifact lord. 6/6/4 or 6 mana 4/4 flyer. This is generic. Guardian automation. Dies, you gain 3 life. There are better versions of things like this if you're trying to play it. In limited, though, this is actually a really good card. In constructed, there are better cards. Don't worry about this. Guardians of Metless. Defender. 0/6. It's a giant wall. I don't know that I need to explain why walls are bad. But I will anyway. This creature can't attack. It's in the flavor text. Hangerback Walker. Put a +1/+1 counter on it. Okay, so it can grow. When it dies, put a +1/+1, or put a... Okay, so each of its +1/+1 counters turn into a 1/1 flyer Thopter. That's perfectly welcome. You can pump it up if you're stuck in a board stall. So this is actually a really good thing. I mean, you turn 2 it, and turn 3 you start making it bigger, longer, faster, stronger. If you catch it in the late game, you just dump it and go to town. For each enchantment you control, I don't like this. Tomb, the reprinting Tomb. It's okay. And that's about as good as you're going to get from me. Mage Ring Responder. There we go. Could not read that. Do not ask questions. When the responder doesn't untap during its tap step, 7 untap the responder. Colossus of Sardia much? Whenever it attacks, deals 7 damage to target creature defending player. Okay, so that explains why. Better than Colossus of Sardia, not as big as Colossus, doesn't cost as much as Colossus, still has the same problem as Colossus, but has a much bigger output. Oh, I believe Colossus is trample. Oh God, I'm done. I'm done. You just watched me try and type, and I couldn't even. There's an X in there. Meteorite. When Meteorite enters the battlefield, it deals 2 damage to target creature or player. Add 1 mana to your 5 mana rock. At least it does 2 damage, so it is playable, just as the simple mana rock with shock. So, yeah, if there was something to flicker this, that would make it a little bit better. But this is just fine. So be it. Orbs of Warding. You have Hexproof. That's nice. And you have Prevent 1 from creatures. That's nice. I would play this in limited. It's incredibly defensive, but I mean, it's not bad. The more hits that you have to take, and considering majority of this format is 2Xs, it means they're all 1Xs essentially. As Prism Ring enters the battlefield, choose a color. Whenever you cast a spell of the chosen color, you gain 1 life. If this was whenever a spell is cast of that color, gain 1 life, I would have been all over this. I would call it legacy playable, but it doesn't. Pyromancer's Goggles. Add red to your mana pool. When this mana is spent to cast red into a sorcery spell, copy it. You may choose new targets for that copy. That's not terrible, but at 5 mana, I wouldn't do that. There better be something really good. Ram Roller. Attacks each turn if able, as long as you control another artifact. So I was going to say a juggernaut. It's exactly what it is. Each player draws a card. This is a reprint, if I remember correctly. Whenever a creature attacks alone, it gets +1/+1 until creature you control. Sword of the Animist. We have a rare one. A quick creature gets +1/+1. Whenever it attacks, search your library for a basic land card, put it into the battlefield tapped, and shuffle your library. I'm not interested in that. Like, if I'm having to play this, I'm in trouble. Yeah. Throwing Knife. +2/+0. Whenever a equipped creature attack, you may sacrifice Throwing Knife. You do 2 damage to target creature or player. Okay. That's a whatever card. Veteran Cider. I have not seen very many good things here. Attacking creatures get +1/+0. Equipped creature gets +1. Like, nothing's really standing out to me as being excellent. Everything was just like, you're almost there. So I'm actually really let down by that. Overall, the set is fine. There are a ton of things in there. I mean, you have Gideon. Who's right? Wait. Kalen. Where is he? Gideon. Show card. Here, who I wanted to check. He is not a May. I could have swore somebody was a May. Was it Jace? Exile Jace. Was you the jail one? Exile Liliana. Okay, so they're all Mays. Okay. I thought that I remembered somebody being a May. Oh well. So there are cards in here that are playable. There are a couple things that are available for Legacy. There are a couple things that are available for Modern. There are a couple things that I'm really disappointed about. This card, Tragic Arrogance. Why did you say not land? And there are a couple cards that I'm actually really excited about, mainly in red though. The first time I've seen red get the haul, and it's just like, wow, congratulations, red. So that is the end of this set review. If you guys want me to talk about anything in depth or explain what I was talking about by standard deck with Average Dragon and whatnot, I can definitely shoot up a deck list. I do have Moto installed on my workstation here. I don't play Moto though. It is specifically so that if somebody wanted me to pull up a deck list, I could do it on there, so there's a visual. But that is going to be it. I hope you guys have enjoyed yourself. I will be back with the next set. I do not know what that is. I just know that eventually it will start showing up here saying spoilers. And you know what? I am perfectly fine with that. Obviously, somebody didn't know how to count. I'm not responsible for that. But I want to say thank you to MTG Salvation. I did use your site for this entire thing. And to Wizards of the Coast and Hasbro Games for having Magic the Gathering. But I am done. I hope you guys have enjoyed yourselves. Have a good day. Bye-bye.